Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. I mentioned in my last two videos that in order to catch up in the shop, I'm just going to kind of let the shop tell me what it needs. And I'm just going to move around from place to place, and where I feel like it needs the most work, that's where my vignette is going to be. So on this, and I skipped through all this, but I had already painted this black, and I just took it outside and spray painted it black. And I think this is a satin finish since I'm using it as a base coat. So I needed black underneath because I'm going to do a crackle finish on this. So here I have already painted on, once the black dried, then I painted the crackle medium over the top of that. And because I want somewhat smaller cracks here, I watered my crackle medium down just a little bit, and I felt like that would give me less cracks, and it did. I would have liked to have been able to use Elmer's glue here, because just a regular school glue, because you get even smaller cracks with that. But if you let that dry too long, and before you put your top coat over it, then it doesn't crack very well at all. So I didn't want to take a chance on getting too busy in the store and not being able to get to it in time. Now, I'm using more of the transfers that my friend Paula brought me here, and these are an IOD transfer. I can't think of the name offhand, but I will add it in the description. So I'm just I've cut these all apart, and I'm just placing them where I feel like they need to go. Now, I don't want to overdo this at all, because this being staged as a garden stand or a plant stand, I really feel like it doesn't need to be overdone, because you're going to be setting things on it, and I just didn't want to get it too busy. So I just put a little here and there on this, and then again, it will be staged then as a plant stand. Now, what I am going to do to this is add a tray to the bottom, and I'm just going to take some fencing boards, and I use those a lot because they're lightweight and they're durable and they are inexpensive. So I just cut enough of those to go across those bars on the bottom, and it just took about 3 of them, and then I attached them to the bars on both sides. And I had this old box here that I attached on the little footrest, and this is the color that it already was. It was the aged wood. So I'm using my Dixie Belle brown wax, and it ends up being a perfect match. So I just go over that fencing board good. That will both color and treat it, and then it'll make the two of them go together well. And then I had an old rusty looking bucket, so I just cleaned it up good and clear coated it, and then added some more of the transfer to it so that it could sit on the chair to kind of pull the look together, because I felt like it needed to bring that dark up to the top, and that was just the perfect solution. And the second item that I'm making over is this galvanized bucket. And again, I've had many of these galvanized items in my store that I bought several years ago and sold many of them, but I have several left of just different things that are galvanized. And again, galvanized just doesn't sell that well for me anymore. So I'm going to paint this in the color dropcloth, and I'm going to do 2 coats. Now, I'll paint around the outside, obviously, and the underneath of the bucket, but I'm not going to paint the inside, because I want to leave that to where if someone wants to put a plant or something like that in it, then you don't have to worry about it bothering the paint. So 2 coats of this, and I let it dry well, and then I take a damp cloth and just kind of rub here and there. Now, always when I'm wet distressing, I let my paint dry to the touch, but you don't want to let it dry really long, because the longer it dries, the harder it is to remove. So when you're doing your wet distress, you want to make sure that it is a freshly dried piece. It's just much, much easier that way. And I made one of these over a few days ago, actually, and it was in maybe my last video, actually the one before that. And I didn't add anything to it. I just distressed it. Well, this one I'm going to make over the same way. I'm going to just distress it with the damp cloth and then clear coat it just like I did the other one. But then I'm going to add a transfer to this one. So this is more of those bits and pieces of transfers that I have left over. And I'm just kind of using up some of them. I think this is from one of the Dixie Belle sets that's discontinued. But it is going to make a good transfer for this bucket to keep it neutral and make it go in the Garden Decor area. I'm going to try to find which set this one came from, because you can still buy them, these in some places. And now I bought these clay pots at a thrift store. They didn't have the bottoms, which I'm okay with, because a lot of times when I'm using a clay pot, I will just put a saucer underneath it. But I want to give these some different looks. So I'm going to paint them all and then just kind of do different things to them. But most of these will get base coated in the same color of drop cloth. So I'll give them 2 coats of the colored drop cloth. And so I'm just going to kind of prep some of these up ahead. At this point, I'm not even certain exactly what I'm doing to them, but I know that on most of them I'm going to be decoupaging. So it's always good to start with a good neutral base so that your images will show up better. So most of these, I painted the main part of them in this color of drop cloth. And then left the rim around the top for another color. But some of them I painted the whole thing the same color. So I'm going to decoupage some napkins on some of these. And if you never decoupaged with napkins, this is matte finish, by the way. But if you've never used the napkins before, then it's very easy to decoupage with it. You will take 1 layer of the napkin. So most napkins have about 3 layers. Some will have 2. I haven't run into any with any more than 3. But you'll remove all the layers that you can remove and just leave the printed layer on the outside. And because these pots are smaller at the bottom than at the top, then obviously you're not going to be able to take a napkin and just go all the way around. So I'm just tearing out some images here, and I'm kind of grouping them in 3s and putting them on that way. I'm still going to cover the whole pot, and because of that, I'm going to have a little bit of overlapping, and I want those edges to be raw. I don't want them to be just straight. I want them to be or not raw. I want the edges to be torn so that they have more of an organic look, and they just kind of blend in a lot better that way. Now, if I can find any of the napkins that I'm using today, I will add them in the description. Many of these I've gotten as a gift. This is one that was gifted to me. And so I may or may not be able to find them. But if I find them, I will link them. Otherwise, just use any napkins that you can find that you like the look of. Amazon is a great source for napkins. Just make sure that when you're ordering, you are sure how many napkins are in the deal that you're buying, because very often people will put like 1 to 3 napkins on there, and you think you're getting a pack because you haven't read carefully. but there's only a few napkins, and again, sometimes even just one. So obviously that's not a good value usually. So on the other hand, buying a pack of napkins, you're not likely to use a whole pack on your crafts unless you are someone who sells your items. In which case, if you know a crafter, then a napkin swap is a good idea, so you can share with each other. So I'm going to use this around the bottom, and then for the rim around the top on this one, I thought it would be nice to pull out some of that deeper green. So Dixie Belle has a color called collard greens, and I think that it's going to work perfectly with this pot. So what I do on these is I add my medium, which is in this case is the Mod Podge, and then after I've got it adhered really well, then I wet that bottom, the edge really well, and then just kind of tear it toward the edge, and it usually will be a clean tear. And then to remove the remaining, once this is very dry, then use your little finger sander, which I will add in the description, and sand off those edges, and that will give it a neater, cleaner finish. Now with some of these, I decided to paint the inside, and in that case, it will just be used to display other items in, and this is one of them. So I'm painting it. This actually covered in one coat, since it's such a dark color, and this is such a porous material to paint on. But I painted the inside, and then all around that top rim up to the area that I added the napkin to. So now I'm just going to let you watch as I finish the others, or some of the others, and then I'll show all of them when I'm finished. These will all get finished off with a clear top coat also. And I think I just used a satin finish Dixie Belle top coat. So I'm starting with the darker finish on this one because I want a crackle finish. So I am putting some glue on this because I don't want a lot of crackle. So I'm just using some glue on this, just some regular school glue. And then actually I think I'll use Mod Podge on this. And so I'm only going to get light crackling. And this is actually the first time I've tried Mod Podge versus regular school glue. And I don't know, you get less crackling with the school glue than you do the crackle medium, of course. But with the Mod Podge, you get even less. So just keep that in mind. If you want a lot of cracks, Mod Podge, I don't think is the better choice. So obviously, I'm going to let that dry to the touch, and then I'll paint my base color or my main color over the top of that when I'm ready to do that one. And the color that I'm going to use around the top of this one is the color, it is a Dixie Belle color called Willow Tree. Or not Willow Tree, actually Weeping Willow. Now I don't mind taking my napkin here all the way around, although the top is bigger so it's not going to lay the best. You're going to get some wrinkling, but on a project like this where your pattern is really busy like this, I think it's perfectly fine to have the wrinkling, and it just kind of adds to the aged look of it, I feel like. You may want to do yours more perfectly, but I'm all about just winging it sometimes, and you can piece it. As you can see here, I've torn off little pieces and didn't even worry about matching the patterns, and it still worked out just fine. This is the one that I'm going to do the crackle on. So as you can see, it's not even completely dry. And I'm just going over it. You want to do it with a thick coat because if you stroke over it, you're going to lose some of your cracks. And as you can see, I got very little cracking here. Now it's very hard to tag these because of the shape of them. If you were to try to tie it around the underneath of that rim, obviously it's going to try to slide down. So the only thing I could come up with, and I actually like the look of it, is I took a long piece of jute and fed it up through that hole and then tied a knot around the side, and then I added my hang tag, and now that hang tag is not going anywhere, and it kind of has a neat little look. Now here are a little set that Tammy did, and all she did on hers was paint the rim around the top black and the drop cloth on the bottom, and then she stamped the names of some herbs on them, and I thought that made a really neat little set. Now with this next one, I just took bits and pieces of a napkin that I had torn, and so I just tore a larger one for the bottom of each side, and then just filled in there at the top between with some smaller pieces. And then I used the color English Ivy around the top. And then I did some stenciling on the top of that, and I just used some words off of a larger stencil that I had, and just gave that a little something extra. Now I had this little metal plate. It's I don't even know if it's even I think it is silver plated, but I'm painting this 2 coats of the color drop cloth, and then I'm going to add a transfer to this one. And again, this is just one of the bits and pieces of transfers that I had either gifted to me. I think maybe this one was also gifted to me. But it's just, these little projects like this are really good ways to use up those extra transfers that you haven't used. I'm kind of placing this a little more toward one side because I want to add some scripture to this. And then I take my ink pad once I'm finished and kind of rub around the edges some to make it look more distressed. And obviously these transfers get sealed off, and I'm going to use a satin finish clear coat from Dixie Belle. And I also want some little nicks in this so that it looks a little bit more realistic that the distress does. So I'm just going to take a Sharpie and just kind of draw a little nick here and there. And I didn't get to show this one. This is the one that I did the crackle finish on, but I did a rice paper that I ordered from Decoupage Central. So I'm going to add the link to Decoupage Central in the description. I'm not sure if they still have this or not, but that's where I got it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.